The tragedy of Big John Studd wasn't just about his death, it was also about his heartbreaking battle with cancer, which slowly took over his entire body. For a man who prided himself on being big, strong, and larger than life, this was a devastating blow. So let's take a closer look and uncover what really happened. Big John Studd was one of the most towering and intimidating figures to ever step foot in a wrestling ring. Standing well over 6 feet 10 and tipping the scales at over 360 pounds during his peak, he looked every bit like a man built to dominate. But behind all that size and muscle was a man who would face a heartbreaking and painful battle that not even his immense physical strength could help him win. On March 20th, 1995, the wrestling world lost Big John Studd at just 47 years old. His official cause of death was complications from liver cancer and Hodgkin's disease, a type of lymphoma that attacks the lymphatic system. But the story of his death is about more than just the diagnosis. It's about the slow, tragic unraveling of a man who spent his entire life trying to be larger than life. Studd had been quietly fighting Hodgkin's lymphoma for over a year before he passed away. At first, there was hope. He went through multiple rounds of chemotherapy. He even tried a bone marrow transplant, a difficult and often grueling procedure that's usually reserved for the most severe cases. But nothing seemed to work. The cancer moved fast. It spread aggressively, punching holes through his liver and eventually taking over the rest of his body. For a man who made his living off his size and strength, watching his body betray him must have been especially cruel. Imagine someone who prided himself on towering over everyone else, now slowly being broken down from the inside by something he couldn't even see. Big John Studd was known for being obsessed with size. Not just in the way you might expect from a pro wrestler. This was personal for him. He wanted to be the biggest, the strongest, the one who stood above everyone else. And when you have someone like Andre the Giant in your company, that's a tall order, literally and figuratively. Studd spent much of his career trying to outdo Andre, to be seen as the true giant of wrestling. It wasn't just a storyline gimmick. It was something he took seriously. So seriously, in fact, that he went to great lengths to push his body further than nature intended. Like many wrestlers during that era, Studd turned to performance-enhancing substances to boost his size and strength. Steroids and human growth hormone, known as HGH, were both part of that picture. In the 80s, the use of these substances wasn't exactly rare in the wrestling world. In fact, it was practically encouraged behind closed doors. But the long-term risks weren't widely understood or talked about back then. Wrestlers were more focused on how they looked under the bright lights than what might happen 20 years later. In Studd's case, the price was devastating. While we can't say for sure what role those drugs played in his illness, modern medicine has drawn strong connections between prolonged steroid use and serious health issues, including various forms of cancer. His need to be the biggest wasn't just about winning matches or looking good on posters. It was tied to a deep rivalry that became one of wrestling's most memorable clashes. Big John Studd versus Andre the Giant. These two massive men were booked as fierce enemies, with Studd constantly challenging Andre's title as the real giant of professional wrestling. Fans loved it. The promos, the stare-downs, the body slams. It was all larger than life. But behind the scenes, things weren't as friendly as they may have seemed. Andre reportedly didn't like Studd. Not one bit. He saw him as arrogant, maybe even a bit disrespectful. Guys like Jake the Snake Roberts and the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, have gone on record saying Andre had genuine animosity towards Studd. According to them, Andre didn't think Studd was a good worker, meaning he didn't pull his weight in the ring or didn't know how to work safely and effectively given his size. Andre, who dealt with constant physical pain due to his own condition, didn't have much patience for someone he felt wasn't taking the craft seriously or who was just there to show off their muscles. Their feud might have been great for TV, but it was far from pretend. Still, despite all that tension, Big John Studd left his mark. He wasn't just another big guy in tights. He was a central figure during one of wrestling's most explosive eras. His real name was John Minton, but the world would come to know him as Big John Studd. He didn't start out with that famous name, though. In fact, his early wrestling days looked quite different. He was trained by the legendary Killer Kowalski, and in 1972, he made his debut in the NWA's Hollywood wrestling promotion under the name The Mighty Minton. He even teamed up with the charismatic superstar Billy Graham, forming a strong partnership that gave him early exposure. Not long after, he made his way into the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, what we now know as WWE, where he wrestled under a new ring name, Chuck O'Connor. During this run, he squared off with popular stars like Chief Jay Strongbow and Gorilla Monsoon. On September 12, 1972, he even got a shot at the WWF World Heavyweight Championship, facing Pedro Morales, though he didn't win. Later that month, he lost to El Olympico at the Showdown at Shea event, and by February 1973, he had left the promotion. After that early taste of the spotlight, Studd kept grinding. In 1974, he joined Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling and continued wrestling as Chuck O'Connor. He spent the mid-1970s bouncing between promotions, including a brief return to the WWF in 1976. But this time, things got a bit mysterious. He put on a mask and became Executioner Number 2, teaming with Executioner Number 1 to form the masked tag team known as the Executioners. They even won the WWF World Tag Team Championship on May 11, 1976, by defeating Louis Jourdan and Tony Parisi. But the reign didn't last. After a third masked man got involved in one of their matches, the team was stripped of the titles. Their manager, Captain Lou Albano, claimed it was all an optical illusion, but the damage was done. Studd left the WWF again in early 1977. He kept busy during this time, including stints with the American Wrestling Association from 1975 to 1976, and again from 1980 to 1981. In 1978, while working in the Mid-Atlantic territory, he teamed up with Ken Patera and won the Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Championships. By the early 1980s, he had also started gaining more opportunities, including a few title shots at the NWA World Heavyweight Championship held by Dusty Rhodes, though he never managed to capture the gold. Everything changed in late 1982 when Studd returned to the now renamed World Wrestling Federation and finally became the persona we all remember, Big John Studd. This time he came in as a monster heel, managed by classy Freddie Blassie. His new gimmick was simple but powerful. He would carry a stretcher to the ring, beat his opponents to a pulp, and then have them carried out. It was brutal, effective, and made him stand out. He quickly became a top challenger for the WWF World Championship, which was held at the time by Bob Backlund. But it wasn't just title shots that got him noticed. It was his brewing feud with a true legend, Andre the Giant. This feud became the heart of Studd's WWF legacy. It wasn't just about winning matches. For Studd, this was personal. He wanted to be the one true giant in wrestling, and Andre was the obstacle in his way. The storyline had Studd and Blassie offering money, first $10,000, later $15,000, to any wrestler who could slam him while bragging that it couldn't be done. Several wrestlers tried and failed, but then Andre stepped up. Right when he was about to slam Studd, Blassie jumped in to stop it, and Studd grabbed the ropes to avoid being lifted. From there, the feud exploded. Andre did eventually slam Studd, more than once. In fact, one slam was so powerful that it collapsed the entire ring. Their matches were the stuff of wrestling legend. They even battled inside steel cages, where Andre would often finish Studd with his crushing sit-down splash from the top rope. But no matter how many times Andre got the better of him, Studd refused to admit defeat. He kept calling himself the true giant of wrestling, insisting that he'd never been slammed. By 1984, Studd's rivalry with Andre had become one of the hottest in the business. He also started challenging the rising star Hulk Hogan, who had just become WWF champion. Hogan, much like Andre, was also able to slam Studd, which only added fuel to the fire. Around this time, Studd also changed managers, aligning himself with Bobby the Brain Heenan, his old friend from the AWA. This move only made the Andre feud even more intense. One of the most memorable moments in that feud came during a tag team match on WWF Championship Wrestling. Studd and Ken Patera faced Andre and SD Jones, but things got ugly. After the match, Studd and Patera ambushed Andre and cut his hair, a moment that was portrayed as a deep insult and humiliation. Vince McMahon and Bruno Sammartino, on commentary, said they were stripping Andre of his dignity. Andre swore revenge. That led to a huge showdown at the very first WrestleMania. It was the famous $15,000 body slam challenge. If Andre failed to slam Stud, he would be forced to retire. The match took place at Madison Square Garden, and fans were on the edge of their seats. In under 6 minutes, Andre slammed Stud with authority, sending the crowd into a frenzy. After WrestleMania, Stud formed a dangerous alliance with 468-pound King Kong Bundy. The two giants attacked Andre again, injuring his sternum. This new team continued the war with Andre into 1986, often teaming up against him and whatever brave faces he could recruit. Names like Hulk Hogan, Tony Atlas, Junkyard Dog, and Hillbilly Jim. Stud also took part in the famous 20-man Battle Royal at WrestleMania 2, which included NFL players like William the Refrigerator, Perry, and Bill Fralick. Though Andre ended up winning, Stud made headlines by eliminating Perry, only to be tricked and eliminated by Perry afterward during a fake handshake. Later that year, when Andre began missing shows due to his growing health issues and acting role in The Princess Bride, a new storyline came into play. Andre was suspended, but soon reappeared under a mask as the Giant Machine. Stud, Bundy, and Heenan tried to prove Giant Machine was really Andre, but they could never unmask him. They kept pushing their theory, pointing out that no Japanese wrestler spoke with a French accent or weighed over 500 pounds. Stud also had a reputation backstage. He was known to wrestle stiff and wasn't fond of working with guys he didn't respect. One such moment came when he faced Ted Arcidi, a legit strongman, at the Boston Garden. Stud showed real contempt, treating Arcidi like someone who didn't belong in the ring. He and Bundy feuded with several tag teams in 1986, including the Islanders and the British Bulldogs. But tension grew between them, and after a match against the Bulldogs where they argued in the ring, their alliance quietly ended. Stud's last WWF match of the 1980s came in November 1986. Though he left, his name stuck around. Just before WrestleMania 3, WWF Magazine featured an article where Stud sided with Andre over Hulk Hogan, hinting at unfinished business. He stayed away for a while, but in December 1988, Stud returned during an appearance on the Brother Love Show. Bobby Heenan tried to welcome him back into the fold, but Stud shockingly turned face and chased Heenan off the set. Now a good guy, Stud began feuding with members of the Heenan family, including Andre, who had turned heel, and Haku. He achieved what many fans consider the high point of his career when he won the 1989 Royal Rumble in Houston. He also served as special guest referee for the match between Jake Roberts and Andre at WrestleMania 5. Tensions boiled over when Andre attacked him, leading Stud to disqualify his old rival. His final match came in June 1989, and he left the WWF shortly after, reportedly over pay disputes. In the years that followed, Stud wrestled on the independent circuit. His final match was in 1993 against the Honky Tonk Man, after which he collapsed backstage. Outside the ring, he focused on other ventures. He created his own line of workout supplements and even trained a young wrestler named Ron Reese, who would later appear in WCW as Big Ron Stud. He also dabbled in boxing promotion in the northeastern United States. And that wraps up today's video. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you next time. See you soon.